Welcome to Gluten-Free Kitchen Cafe. No gluten, no rice, no wheat, no corn, no grain. Let's cook. All right, for this dill onion bread, let's take a look at our ingredients. 2½ cups of cassava flour, 1½ teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum, 2¼ tablespoons of yeast, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1½ teaspoons of salt, 1/4 cup of soda water, 4 large eggs, 1/3 cup of oil, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sugar that goes in the dry ingredients, 1/3 cup of water, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 1/4 tablespoons of dried dill, and 1 tablespoon of dried onions. Okay, first what we're going to do is heat up some water in a glass container. Make sure your water is no hotter than 110 degrees. Next, we're going to add in our sugar, give it a good little stir, and then we're going to add in our yeast. Make sure your yeast is very fresh, because if not, your dough is not going to rise. Cassava flour doesn't rise as much as gluten wheat flour does, so we want all the help we can get. Now cover up your yeast mix and set it aside. This recipe calls for 4 large eggs. Make sure they're room temperature and scramble them well. Next, we're adding our cassava flour, 2½ cups. I'm using my Grandma Eddie's stand mixer. So right now we're adding all of our dry ingredients: salt, sugar, xanthan gum, and then also the dried dill and the dried onions. And just give that a good quick mix. I like to just do it this way because see how cloudy it gets? It would get even more cloudy if I had it attached to the machine and it was going. So just give it a good quick stir. Next, attach your paddle. Give it one more good quick stir, and now we're going to add our wet ingredients. So first we're going to give our eggs one more stir. Just raise your paddle. Just kind of get everything out of the way. Just a little bit easier. Now mixing on low, no higher than medium. We're just going to start adding our liquid. That's apple cider vinegar. We've already added our eggs. And next we're going to add our oil. And just let it mix for about a minute total. So go ahead and just get ready to add your yeast. Now your yeast should be proofed like that, like overflowing. Make sure that your yeast is fresh, and this is what your results are. Now carefully just pour everything in. I ended up getting a spatula to scrape out the rest of the sugar and yeast that was in my little Pyrex. I don't want to waste anything. I want everything to make sure it ends up in the mix. Remember to click like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Now we're going to mix this starting out low, and we're going to increase the speed to about medium. Don't worry if all the dough looks like it's stuck to the paddle. We're going to increase the speed, and it's going to mix really well. It'll be just fine. Next, we're going to add 1/4 cup of soda water. I just use coconut flavor because that's just what I had. You will not taste the soda. We're just trying to increase the bubbles in the dough. We just want to get as much rise as possible. So you only need 1/4 cup because you don't want the dough to be too battery. So we're going to increase the speed from medium to high because we want to get a really good whipped mix on our dough. So this is what your dough should look like. It's going to be pretty stiff and firm, but don't worry about it. There's a lot of stuff in there that's going to help it rise. So just remove your bowl from the mixer, and now we're going to be scraping everything off and getting it prepared to go into a warm oven. You're going to want to get a spatula. Yes, this dough is very sticky, as you can see. Get a spatula. I use spray pan, but if you don't have spray oil, you can just use oil and a pastry brush. What we're going to do is spray the edges of our bowl. So our dough is going to stay in the bowl. And just push the dough down and make sure that it's not going to stick to the sides of the bowl when it's rising in the oven. Now just spray the edges of the bowl again. Scrape off your spatula. Get that one last drop of dough back on the ball. Spray the top of the dough with some more pan. There you go. Get that off of there. We do not want to waste a bite. Now get some cling wrap. Spray the top of that. Flip it over. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover the ball of dough completely. Press it down in there so there's no air pockets. And next we're going to take a tea towel or a napkin. I'm just using the same napkin to cover it up. A quick word about my Patreon. There's only one tier. Everyone gets all the recipes, tips, tricks, and access to all giveaways and contests. It's only $5 a month. The link will be in the description below. Thank you. Now we're going to put our dough in a warm oven to rise for 40 to 50 minutes, depending on how hot your oven runs. I'm going to let it rise for 50 minutes in my oven. Now it's time to take out our dough, and it should have risen. It's not going to triple rise the way wheat flour does, but it has risen, which is going to be kind of a surprise. So next, take your baking pan. I'm using a 9x12 baking pan, and I'm coating it with some more pan. I'm using a silicone dish or pan, but you can use metal. It doesn't matter. I just prefer to use silicone. So do you see how much that dough rose? Now take off your saran wrap. Now set it aside because you're going to use it again. Make sure you use your oven mitt because that pot is still going to be pretty warm from the oven. And just dump your dough into the baking pan. Be gentle when you are pushing the dough around to make sure it's all fit into the pan. Use some more pan. That will help you do that because you don't want to press out too many of those air bubbles that are in there. I also have a plain recipe that's just cassava, and I also have a cassava and rice flour recipe on my channel. So just make it nice and smooth. Make sure there's no air gaps. And next, just give it a little bit more spray pan or oil on the top of your loaf. Cover it with the same saran wrap that you had just put on aside. Make sure that you press out all the air bubbles and make sure that there's a clean seal. Now you can just cover it again with another tea towel. I'm just using the same napkin that I used. Now we're going to set the oven for 380 degrees. So keep your bread covered, and look at that. It rose again. Isn't that lovely? Now we are going to gently put it in the oven. It is in the oven. Let's set our timer. For the first 16 minutes, we're going to bake at 380 degrees. After the first 16 minutes, lower the temperature to 360 degrees and set your timer for 50 minutes. While we're waiting for the bread to bake, please subscribe to my channel, click like, and comment. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them in the comments. Now our bread is coming out, and it is lovely. Your kitchen is going to smell amazing. Now let's just pop it out of the pan. So when I first learned that I was allergic to gluten, my quest was to bake bread because I love bread. So this little loaf is the result of about 200 tries over a few years. I hope you love it. Well, this is our little loaf. It is lovely. It's got a nice crispy crust. As you can see, it's a firm loaf, and now we're going to give it a good couple of slices. Make sure you use a serrated knife. It's just much easier. I also like to flip it on the side to cut it. That way it doesn't get smashed because it's still pretty warm. And there it is. A lovely little loaf of dill onion bread. If you bake this loaf, I would love to hear what you think about it. I think it almost tastes a little bit like pumpernickel, which I love. So please let me know. And remember to click like, comment, and share. And now we are going to butter a couple of slices of this lovely bread. And I'd like to tell you this is the only slice we had, but after we were finished making the video, we had more bread. No guilt. So I just wanted to show you something interesting about this bread. Normally with rice flour bread, which is normally what's only available, which I think is awful, it is crumbly, gritty, not flexible. This bread, you don't have to toast. You can literally just slice it and make sandwiches, and it is delicious. It tastes just like wheat flour bread. You're really going to enjoy this recipe. You can also toast it, and if you want to pop it in the freezer, just wrap it in parchment paper and a Ziploc. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Remember to click like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I post 2 to 3 videos a week. See you soon.